Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video. I am so excited for today's video as I will be sharing my pile of possibilities for Victober. For those of you who have been around for a while, you know that I love classics and I especially love Victorian literature, and this readathon is truly the one that brings me the most joy. I just love seeing everyone's TBR videos and people who don't have a YouTube channel but share on Goodreads or on Discord or even on Instagram what they're reading. I just love seeing people enjoy Victorian literature, and I love exploring more and reading new authors that I haven't read before. This is my third year participating here on BookTube. And I just could not be more excited. I am so excited. I have so many books that I want to read. There are just so many Victorian novels on my TBR, so many books that I want to read. And of course I can't get to all of them, but I do have a pile of possibilities. And of the books I share, I would love to know which ones were standouts for you, which ones you really enjoyed and think that I should read, especially for this readathon. I do want to thank the hosts for Victober for putting it together again this year, and I'll have their channels linked below in their announcement videos. I highly recommend you watch their announcement videos, specifically for the prompt for Victober. If you are interested in following each prompt, they have some great recommendations for each of them. I won't be following the prompts this year. I just want to have more wiggle room and feel less constrained. That's just for me. I just want to read what I want to read. So I'm not going to follow the prompts, but there are a couple bonus prompts that were suggested as a way to honor two lovely ladies that passed away that were booktubers as well. Alice from Alice and the Giant Bookshelf and Jen from Jennifer Brooks. And to honor them and their love of mysteries and Victorian literature, there were a couple of prompts, which were to read something by Wilkie Collins and to read something by Arthur Conan Doyle. And those two prompts I definitely want to fulfill, but the main four, I don't think I'm gonna aim to fulfill them, although whatever I end up reading will probably fit the prompts regardless, but all the information on the prompts will be in the description box. And I did want to read the group read The Doctor's Wife by, I think, Elizabeth Braddon, so I have that one on Kindle. We'll see if I end up getting to it. Really curious to see if it's something I end up enjoying. It's no secret that I cannot stick to TBRs, and I'm a huge mood reader, and there have been so many times where I start a book and then halfway through the book I'm not in the mood for it anymore, so I set it aside and I say I'll temporarily DNF and come back. And it happens a lot, and I don't think Victober's ever been a problem. Like, I've always been in the mood for Victorian novels in the fall time around Victober, so I know that I'm going to read some wonderful books this month, and I'm just so excited. But because I'm a mood reader, I really need a large list of possibilities and to just see where my mood takes me. I cannot give myself a small list and stick to it. It's just not possible for me. But I have a really long list here, and I would love to hear your thoughts if you've read any of the books I mentioned, just so maybe that encourages me to pick up some, prioritize some. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the pile of possibilities. The first four books, I would consider them to be not necessarily mandatory for me, but I do feel like these are books that I definitely want to read in October. If I don't end up reading them, that's totally fine. But two of them in particular I want to read because they are my two favorite Victorian authors at the moment. And last Victober, I read a book from each author, and they were both 5 stars, and I just loved these authors so much. The first author being Anthony Trollope, and last Victober I read Framley Parsonage, which is in the Barsetshire series, and I adored that book so much. And I had said in my wrap-up that I was ready to just continue with the series and finish with the last 2 books. And so I planned on going on and reading The Small House at Allington and The Last Chronicle of Barset, and a year has gone by and I have not read them. I guess it's my mood. I don't know, but this year I need to finish the Barsetshire series. I will not read both books in October, but the second last book, which is The Small House at Allington, I do plan on reading, and I already have it divided with tabs, so I have like a bit to read each day and finish it within October. But this is a huge priority. I love this series so much. I love the characters, and like most of the books in the series, I am going in blind. I don't want to know what it's about, so I do know I will enjoy it, and I'm very excited. And then the other author I was referring to is Elizabeth Gaskell, and the next book that I would like to read by her is Sylvia's Lovers. I have yet, out of her big main novels, to read Sylvia's Lovers and Wives and Daughters, but that one I want to save for last, just because I think it'll be an all-time favorite, so I want to save that one, and Sylvia's Lovers is next, and I don't know what it's about. We will see if I like it. It has a very intriguing cover, and I love Elizabeth Gaskell, so this is definitely one that I want to try to get to. And then for the 2 bonus prompts for Wilkie Collins and Arthur Conan Doyle, I do plan on reading Jezebel's Daughter, as well as rereading Study in Scarlet, probably not The Sign of the Four. I recently finished I think earlier this year, I finished the entire canon of the Sherlock Holmes stories, the full-length novels and the short stories, and I had read them in order, and then I do plan on starting a very slow reread of all the Sherlock stories. So we'll be starting off with A Study in Scarlet. So I will try to get to it in October, as well as Jezebel's Daughter. Continuing with the rest of the books, this next one is massive, and it is a very big maybe. We'll see. And even if I do start it in October, I'm probably going to extend it until November, December. And that's Little Dorrit, because this thing is massive. So all 800 and something pages of it are going to be spread out if I even attempt it in October. I do like Dickens. I don't love Dickens, but I do like him. So far, I have only adored one book, and that was Dombey and Son. That's the only one that I felt such adoration for, and a few others I liked, and then a couple of them not so much. But I have heard amazing things about Little Dorrit, and I'm really, really hopeful that I enjoy it. I've been debating whether or not to try is it a miniseries or a movie? I'm not too sure, but I've been debating whether or not to watch that first or read the book first. I don't know. Maybe I'll try the adaptation first and see if I jive with the story and then give this a go, but it is massive, so we'll see. I also wanted to give George Eliot another go. I read Silas Marner by her a while back and didn't really enjoy it all that much. For Middlemarch, which everyone knows about, I think I'm going to try to read that one in the way that it was released, like serialized. I think it first came out in December of whatever year it was published, and then it just came out in serial form. So I think I'm going to try to read it that way. I know Jen from Jen's Reading Life has been reading Middlemarch that way, and it seems like it's a good way to go about it. So I think I'm going to try it that way. So Middlemarch is a no-go for Victober, but I have heard that The Mill on the Floss is a really good one to read in the fall time. So if you've read The Mill on the Floss, let me know what your thoughts were. If you think I should try another George Eliot that would suit October and the colder months better, let me know, because I am open to anything. But so far, this is kind of the one that's been standing out to me to maybe give it a go. Another author that I've heard of but have never read anything by her is, I think her name is Margaret Oliphant. I've seen Mrs. Oliphant on her books. I'm not 100% sure what her name is, but I have heard that The Rector and The Doctor's Family, I believe, are like the first couple of shorter stories within a series. I don't know too much about them. If you've read them, let me know what you thought. If there is another book by Mrs. Oliphant that I should try, I'm very open to that as well. She seems to be a more obscure Victorian novelist, so I'm really curious about her as well. Another book that has been on my TBR for a while, and I have been kind of hesitant to read it. I just feel sad every time I look at it, because I had planned on buddy reading it with Janelle from Too Fond of Books, who sadly passed away, and I just hadn't been able to bring myself to reading the book. And I had the pages divided so that we would read it at a good pace, and I just couldn't pick up the book, but I might give it a go as well. And that is No Name by Wilkie Collins. One of the best buddy reading experiences I ever had was reading Poor Miss Finch by Wilkie Collins with Janelle. And this was the next one that we had been planning on reading, so maybe I'll get to it. It is also a chunker, but I find Wilkie Collins novels to be very propulsive, so if this is one that you've read and you think it would be a good one, definitely a possibility as well. Going back to Elizabeth Gaskell, she does have some shorter stories as well, some novellas and short stories, and I was thinking of maybe reading one or two of them. I have several on Kindle, and I'm thinking maybe Lizzie Lee, I believe it is, or The Manchester Marriage. If either of those stories are worth my time, in your opinion, please let me know. And then you would have heard me talk about Charlotte Mary Young, the wonderful, wonderful novelist that I finally got a chance to read this year. And I read The Heir of Redcliffe as well as Dine Terrace by her, and adored both of them. They were both 5-star reads, and she is going to probably be in my top 5 Victorian writers of all time. She's wonderful, amazing, and I need to read more by her, but I have so many. This woman wrote so many books, and I just have no idea where to go to next. I do think I'm going to try to read maybe one of her shorter books, just because The Heir of Redcliffe and Dine Terrace were both quite long. So, and Kate Howe had also recommended some in her announcement video for Victober, so I may read one of the ones she mentioned. I think she mentioned Chantry House, and that it's a ghost story, so that might be a fun one. And then there's also Abbey Church, which is another short one. And yeah, we'll see what I end up reading. I have several on Kindle, and Project Gutenberg also has a ton of her books as well. So we'll see what happens. I'm also thinking of maybe rereading a favorite Victorian classic. I do have a few options here. The first one, I'm probably going to reread at least one of these plays. It's Oscar Wilde, The Importance of Being Earnest and Other Plays. And I really, really enjoyed these when I read them. And I think I had meant to read one of them last year to reread, and I just didn't get a chance to. So hopefully this month I'll be able to reread one of his plays. I'm also thinking maybe Wuthering Heights would be a good one to reread. I read this a few years ago and definitely want to read it again, so maybe this one will happen. I had mentioned reading Jezebel's Daughter by Wilkie Collins and maybe No Name, but if I don't end up reading No Name, then I may try to reread The Woman in White, which is one of my favorite Victorian novels of all time. So this one is a really good one for the fall as well. And I've just been in the mood for these kinds of atmospheric stories, and we'll see. I did forget to mention at the beginning of the video that I have some extra books on this pile of possibilities that I'm calling Victorian adjacent. So they're not Victorian classics, but they are Victorian historical fiction alongside a few nonfiction books that would be perfect for Victober. So I wanted to share those as well. I know this is a really long list, but I honestly will be happy if I get to even a few of the books on this list. We'll see what happens. But for nonfiction, this book needs to get finished already. I started The Life of Charlotte Bronte by Elizabeth Gaskell, I think last October. So it's been almost a year. And I am just over halfway through. I don't dislike it, but I don't find it all that engaging. And I love Elizabeth Gaskell. I love her writing, but I just don't really like the way this was formatted as a biography. There are some really fascinating things about Charlotte Bronte in here, and it's definitely made me more interested in her and wanting to know more about her and read her letters. And I find the Bronte family to be so fascinating. And it's not that Elizabeth Gaskell hasn't written an interesting biography. It's very interesting. And again, there are moments that I'm very, very intrigued, and I, have taken notes. I've annotated it and underlined, and I do enjoy it, but I just never feel the desire to pick it back up. Every time I put it down, I'm like, okay, that was enough for this month. On to some other books. So I feel almost indifferent about it, even though while I'm reading it, I'm interested. Have any of you ever felt that way with a book? I don't really know how to explain it, but I will try. I will do my best to finish it this year. I'll try to read some of it in October and some of it for nonfiction November. We'll say that. So I'm going to give this an honest go and try to finish it this year. And I have 3 other possibilities for nonfiction for Victober. This first one here is Becoming Queen by Kate Williams, and it's a biography about Queen Victoria. It tells the astonishing story of Queen Victoria's passionate youth, her bitter struggle with her mother, and how her life was shaped by the death of her forgotten cousin, Princess Charlotte, the queen who never was. So that is a possibility. I'm very interested in the life of Queen Victoria. And another Victoria biography is Victoria, A Life by A.N. Wilson. So this is another option, although it is a lot longer. If any of you have read either of these, which one do you think is better? Which one do you think I should read for Victober? Which one do you think I would enjoy more? That's what I would like to know. But either way, I do want to eventually read both of these. They both sound very interesting, and I love learning about Victoria and her family. This next one I feel like a lot of people have heard of, and that is How to Be a Victorian by Ruth Goodman. And I've heard really good things about this one. I love this cover so much. It's just so fun. And this one I have been wanting to read for a while, so I may read this one as well. It does have a lot of illustrations, which I always love in nonfiction, so very much intrigued by this one. This next book is a good segue into the historical fiction, and that is In the Shadow of a Queen by Heather B. Moore. And this one is about Louise, who is one of Queen Victoria's daughters. And like I've said, I'm very interested in their family, so this one would be a good Victober read as well. A mystery that I would like to read is House of Silk by Anthony Horowitz, and I've read one book by him. I think it was called The Magpie Murders or something like that, and I enjoyed it, and I really liked his writing as well. So this one is about Sherlock. It's a Sherlock story set in 1890, and I don't want to read too much about the plot. I do like to go into mysteries a little more blind. So this one I am really, really hoping I enjoy if I do get to it. I also wanted to finish the Extraordinary Adventures of the Athena Club series, and the third book is The Sinister Mystery of the Mesmerizing Girl. I really, really enjoyed the first book. The second one I enjoyed as well, although it did have elements I wasn't too big of a fan of. But I'm really hopeful that I like this third book, and it'll be another series I can check off my very long list of series that I want to read and need to finish. This series is set in Victorian London, but with lots of fantastical elements, and we have Sherlock and Watson as characters. We have the daughters of very well-known literary figures like Frankenstein and Jekyll and Hyde, and it's just such a fun concept. I love the concept so much. And it looks like in this one, the group of girls, one of their friends, Alice, has gone missing. She's been kidnapped. Sherlock Holmes has also vanished. And there's also a plot to murder Queen Victoria. So this one seems really, really fun, and I hope I like it. We also have The Vanished Bride by Bella Ellis. This is the first book in the Bronte sisters mystery series, and it says, before they became legendary writers, Charlotte, Emily, and Anne Bronte were detectors. And it looks like it's set in Yorkshire in 1845. So another fun Victorian mystery that I may give a go in October. If I am in the mood for something like a middle grade novel, then I may pick up Premeditated Myrtle. This is the first Myrtle Hardcastle mystery by Elizabeth C. Bunce. And I did actually pick this one up several months ago, but temporarily DNF'd it. I just wasn't in the mood. So we'll see. Maybe I will be in the mood in October. And it is a Victorian era middle grade mystery series that I've heard really great things about, and we will see. I have 2 more books to share on this very, very long list. So we have Miss Eliza's English Kitchen, which I've been wanting to read since I bought it, and it's still unread, and I need to read it already. It is a novel of Victorian cookery and friendship, and it says she learned about life through the art of food. So it's right before Queen Victoria ascends to the throne, so early Victorian era, and I'm really, really curious about this one. I think it's one that I will really enjoy, especially with the food elements. And then last but not least, this last book here, I don't think I will get to it in October, but if I end up reading Wuthering Heights in October, I do want to read this one after, so it'll probably be a November book. But I did want to mention it just because it's very appropriate to the readathon. And that is A Return to Wuthering Heights, Nellie Dean by Alison Case. So it is basically Nellie Dean's perspective, I believe, on everything that happened in Wuthering Heights. Yes, so it says, a riveting and heartbreaking novel that reimagines life at Wuthering Heights through the eyes of the Earnshaw's loyal servant, Nellie Dean. So I think that would be a really, really interesting perspective to get for all the events of Wuthering Heights, and I think it would be a good one to read after reading Wuthering Heights. Or maybe that wouldn't be a good idea. Wuthering Heights is a lot, but we'll see. This is definitely an option, and it's one that I've been wanting to read for a while as well. That was a very, very long list. I will probably not even get to a quarter of the books on it, but I love lists. I love long lists. I love having lots of options, and because I cannot stick to TBRs, very strict TBRs, I need a long list of possibilities. And like I said at the beginning of the video, what you say in the comments will probably influence what I end up reading as well. There was one more book actually that I just remembered that I have on Kindle, and I've been wanting to read it as well, and that is Wormwood Abbey. It's a Victorian novel with like fantasy elements, and it just looks so cute. The cover looks very cute. I don't know too much about it, but everyone that's read it has loved it, so I may give that one a go as well. So that was the last book on this very long list. If you've stuck around to the end of the video, thank you so much for sticking it through. It was a longer one, but I am very excited for Victober, and there are just so many great options to choose from. But that's it for this very long pile of possibilities. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!